All right. Well, I've done a number of, I think, talks here about frequencies, the importance of frequencies. And think of frequencies as the quality, the tone of what you're thinking, feeling, doing. So since today it was a theme of our thoughts are creative acts, I've got all kinds of stuff to share about what that might mean to us just in a daily way of moving through the world. There's been a lot of interesting research lately that really and truly demonstrates our thoughts aren't just up here. Our thoughts move through our whole being. I was so intrigued to find the recent research that when we think negative thoughts to our body, that's having a health effect on the body. And when we think positive thoughts toward our body, it supports our immune system. There's a whole array of physical benefit. So one of the things I want to say at the beginning of a talk about thoughts is it's really important to meet ourselves with deep compassion, because we know that monkey mind and it can run away with us, and we don't want to be in a critical relationship as we think about our thoughts and the impact that our thoughts have on the reality we're experiencing. And I want to bring in one other complexity here that we didn't used to know about or even think about, which is there are people in the quantum realm, and probably the really, really deep researchers may or may not agree with what I'm about to say, but for people who roam around in the quantum ideas and the quantum world, is the concept that the quality and tone of our thinking, our consciousness, is orienting us to the quality and tone of particular probabilities. And I heard someone say that we are shifting probabilities all the time, we just don't know it, based on the quality or tone of what we're emitting and attracting to ourselves. I don't think that means we create every moment of our reality, but what it meant to me was, oh, if I have a day when I'm bumping into everything, I'm probably going to go out into the world and be bumping into everything. That might just be the quality and tone of what might happen. And one of the teachers I have classes with, David Spangler, had asked us to go out and just choose the frequency we're going to emanate that day. And one day I decided, okay, if I'm really light, I'm going to go out today and just emanate light. What the heck? I have to make this long schlep across Central Park, then I got to make the whole schlep back. I think I'll just be radiating light as I do that. And it was a very, very interesting day. I had experiences that weren't exactly like I always have. One was in the bank where I had to get some money, and I walked up to the ATM machine, and it was talking, and I thought, well, this is a new experience. And it was saying, please take your cash. Please take your cash. I thought, okay, this is really unusual. But the cash drawer was open, and there was money in it. So I took the money out, and I thought, I'm going to finish my thing, and then I'll go to the manager of the bank. And I went to the manager of the bank, and I said, could you take this money? Because someone is going to be really freaked out, and they're going to be coming back. And she said, no, we're not allowed to take money. So you give me your name, your phone number, and the amount you have in your hand right there, and we'll have the person call you. Okay, fine. It was $380. Wow. So I gave her all that information, and I was just walking out of the bank, and she called my name, and I went back in, and she said, how much was that? And I said, $380. She said, it's his. So I gave this man the money. We walked out together, and he started bemoaning the fact he was 63 and retired, and he was so depressed. Well, I informed him I was significantly older than 63. And I said, I want to tell you that every decade gets better and better. Please keep that in mind. And he said, really? I said, yes, I'm living proof. This is every decade gets better. So we were walking toward 3rd Avenue, and a woman must have been in the bank. She walked up between us, and she said to me, did I hear you say you gave money back to him? And it was $380? And I said, yes. And she said, you gave it back to him. I said, of course I gave it back to him. How could I be comfortable taking somebody else's money? And he said, yeah, boy, what a relief. And he took off in another direction. And just before I was crossing the street, she said, wow, I really needed this today. Thank you for an inspiring story. And I thought, okay, here's a synchronistic event that has now touched a number of people out of the blue. And I thought, there might be something to this radiating light as you go around in your everyday life. And that has reinforced my feeling that, okay, this is good magic. This is the kind of thing you want to be doing, because it's setting a frequency that is somehow drawing a probability that might be really unlikely, because I would never have imagined that those things could be happening. So I invite you to experiment with this. Track the quality of your self-talk, and then say, okay, with this self-talk, what frequency am I emanating right now? What quality of reality am I calling into my particular world in this moment with this frequency that I'm doing? One of the things I want to really underscore, this idea of not being critical when we look at our thoughts and how they're functioning. There's a person in my profession, Janina Fisher, who does a lot of teaching about trauma and this and that. And she introduced, or really reinforced, and I love it, the idea of the noticing brain. Now, many of us have learned that as the observer, but the observer implies there could be an evaluation going on, so I'm not fond of that word. But the noticing brain, what's very cool about the noticing brain is as soon as you come into awareness, that brain, its presence goes right down to your amygdala, the place where we get all hot and bothered about things, and starts calming it just by bringing awareness. So when you're tracking your self-talk, really important to be in a compassionate, noticing awareness, not being on yourself. For the other day, this is a really dumb thing that I am about to share. The other day, one of the new kittens knocked over a dry cat food container. That's their special stuff after they eat their canned food. And it fell into the water fountain of the cats, right? Now, you would not necessarily expect that that would result in unremitting crying, would you? No, probably not. It's dry cat food dropping into a water fountain. But I realized I had a bandwidth about this big just because of what's going on in the world. And I thought, Nancy, I just had to say, listen, this is probably not the dry cat food. Let's go sit at the computer for a minute or two and do some journaling and see actually what are you crying about. And I realized I was grieving. My little bandwidth was really narrow. And after I could figure out what it was, I went and cleaned up the dry cat food. I cleaned out the fountain, no big deal. But it took that compassionate presence to not go off into a whole other thing that would have caused a lot more problem and distress. So it's how, as you're realizing how important your thoughts are about what frequencies they emanate, what you're expecting from life, what probabilities you're engaging, really crucial to have a deeply friendly, loving relationship with yourself, because it will never help to start beating yourself up for having stupid stuff. When I looked at the cat food in that thing and started crying, part of me way back there was going, what is this? But it wasn't, what kind of idiot are you? It was, something must be going on. So approach yourself with compassion, because our thoughts really are significant in how they're shaping what we're experiencing in any given moment. And it's like giving yourself a break, just assuming that you're not doing something like off the wall, but you're having an experience and a response. So one of the things that's useful is when you can get hold of being aware of your self-talk. By the way, in my neck of the woods, self-talk is self-hypnosis. So it's useful to remember that when we're doing self-talk, we're programming ourselves quite deeply, actually, especially if we have some emotional load on what we're saying to ourselves. So since self-talk is self-hypnosis, I will often ask people I'm working with, okay, so what words would help right now? And I think it's very important for us to find our own words that would help because we'll believe them more. Sometimes we need to have a word or two that accompanies us that can pull us out of a hard moment. So take a moment just to think about, if I'm in a tight place, what are the words that I already do or that I can draw on that actually help hold me or lift me up or help me move a little bit away from what's got hold of me? Just to see, for you personally, what word or words actually make a difference. And if you don't find those today, just play with this and see, because your body will tell you the right words. When we say to ourselves words that are right for us in that moment, everything settles. We calm down, and because we're in a friendly environment. We want our internal world to be a friendly environment, a place where we can be vulnerable and explore without having to know exactly what's going to be right, trying things on for size. One other way to shift from self-talk that's taking you down to freeing up to be more in the present is gratitude practice. And I know I shared this with you guys probably last time I was here, where my sister and I were on vacation, and I had an injured knee, and I wasn't moving around very much. And on the last day of our vacation, I woke up, and Carol was down on the beach having a walk. Well, I went into only a Scorpio could probably go into the pity party I generated. It was excellent. After about a couple of minutes, I thought, do you really want your last day of vacation to be this way? And do you really want Carol to walk into this? No, probably not. It took 10 solid minutes of gratitude practice, but that did shift things. Another thing I found helpful when I was getting caught in something was to read a book I was really interested in. Just a couple of pages, popped into my Kindle, and felt slowly, because what we're really talking about is shifting frequencies. They're not set in stone. All the frequencies are available to us. It's just how to orient ourselves to be able to get hold of them. So gratitude practice, I am a great fan of journal writing. Whatever you do to process yourself, if it's not clear, give yourself 5 or 10 minutes just to be with what is this actually that's got me cooking, so that you can arrive at it's like in somatic experiencing that I use in my practice, it's like we go up, there's the activation, and then what do we do to bring it back? And so you want to find your particular way when your self-talk is running around like a galloping horse, how to hit that peak and then have some strategies to come down again. I've probably already done this a million times. In the SE community, Peter Levine, who created somatic experiencing, uses a very seems odd. It actually now goes very well with research, but it looked odd when he did it years ago. There's a sound he invites people to make in order to bring this down. We now know that when you're making sounds, you are activating or exercising the vagus nerve. And the vagus nerve is the primary parasympathetic nerve in your body. Really good to become friends with your vagus nerve. So vocalizing is one of the things that helps with that. But what Peter does, so I'm going to do this and then I'm going to ask you to do it. It's called VOO. That's all. It's just called VOO. And all you do with a VOO is this. You do it till your breath runs out. Take a natural next breath and you do it usually 3 times. But what it's doing is it's ramping down the activation that might be coming from scary thoughts or a scary situation. It's a way to hit that peak of and find your way back down. So let's just do one. But let me ask you just to try one VOO. But what I want to invite you to notice how when you do it, you can feel the vibration of it down into your abdomen. And that's speaking to your parasympathetic system and also can calm thoughts because it's just everything kind of landing. Like in SE, we used to use as an example a snow globe, shake it like crazy and then watch all the little pieces of snow come down. It's that kind of settling that we're looking for if our thoughts have been running crazy. So let's just do one VOO, see how it feels. I'll do it with you, but track your vocal cords and your abdomen just to see how it feels. Okay. Just ride it all the way out. Now, if you were doing this more seriously, you'd do it 3 times. However, there's one other piece of research I want to throw in here. Humming apparently generates nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is good for the brain and the heart. So what I now do is after I do my 3 morning VOOs, I hum 3 times. Just for the heck of it. With an aging brain, why not? So I do that along with doing the VOO. This is all maintenance for your body-mind that makes it easier to be present to your thinking, to be aware of the frequencies your thinking is generating, and gently come back to where you want to be, to the frequencies you're choosing. So the idea that our thoughts create our reality, they certainly create the quality of our reality. And from a quantum perspective, they intersect with probability. There was a doctor on an interview program I watched called Buddha at the Gas Pump, and this doctor had 20 years of hearing people's near-death experiences. I figured he must have worked in the ICU or the emergency room because he had so many people having near-death experiences. And he said one of the things a lot of the people said was that during their life review, what was underscored for them was the importance of the choices they made day to day. Now, it didn't mean just enormous choices. He was saying, things like opening the door for someone, smiling at someone on the street, but also our life choices. And I think that's so important because choices are intentions, and intentions intersect with probability. Our intentions are really significant, and that's another way we can track our thoughts. What am I calling to me right now? What am I offering? Now, here's the other thing, though. Tracking your thoughts and helping to decide where you want them does not mean overlooking and not acting about things that are upsetting or distressing. This is not a let me get out of here kind of thing. So you want to always honor wholeness and leave nothing out, but choose how to be present to what you feel needs your action of whatever kind. So we're not saying forget things that are upsetting. It's how to be with them, how to move through upsetting or distressing feelings. So let me see what else I had to say about this before I wrap up. I'm looking at the clock. Thank you for the clock. So grateful to have a clock finally to look at. That is really great. So the piece to put with all this that is the theme of this year, which is really fabulous, is to remember the light in you. And one thing I think has become difficult, but I really want to underscore this. If you buy into oneness, there is no other ever. Under any circumstances, no matter what is happening, if you buy oneness, there isn't anything other or outside. That, for me, makes frequencies all the more important, and the tone of our thinking all the more important about where we want to resonate and live in terms of quality of our experience and our inner life. Everything is light. If you buy that everything is one thing, we're it. And there isn't any other. There isn't any other place. There isn't any other being. Every single thing is light in form. And just to notice how it is to really let that in as you move through the world and don't agree with people or want to change things, that's fine, but they're not an other. They're not outside the sacred that everything is. So on that note, I'll stop ranting and say, have a great day.